Hello everybody and welcome to my first ever impressions video. This is a video series where I just play the game a little bit and then I just give my first impressions on it. This is not my definitive opinion of the game. If I decide to do a COG, you'll see that and we'll get more in depth with it, but this is just my regular general thoughts of how I feel about this game. Now, this is Ghost of Tsushima, and if you haven't heard of this game, then I'm really surprised. It's a PlayStation 4 exclusive and it's developed by the developers Sucker Punch, which is a development team that I actually really enjoy. I've liked the Sly Cooper games, I've liked all of the Infamous games, and now Ghost of Tsushima is here, so how is it? First off, I'm not going to get too much into the story because this is only the third day of it coming out and I don't want to give anything away, but what I will say is that so far I have been enjoying the story quite a bit. I do enjoy that as the character changes his stances on certain moral things, the gameplay sort of changes to reflect that. And I think that that's really cool. I also like that they use these RPG elements to show how the character is learning new things, new techniques, and being able to learn how to take out his enemies even better than he used to before. It creates this sort of character development that you see in a lot of RPGs, and it works really well in Ghost of Tsushima as well. I really like that. Now, let's get into the gameplay, which is the most important thing, at least for me. This plays a lot like your typical open world game where you kind of run around, you can like save dojos or liberate them, you can help townspeople, or you can just fight random bandits. There's a bunch of stuff to do in this open world and it's a lot of fun. The main thing though with this game that I have noticed that is a big difference from most games is the combat system. The combat system's a little bit different. It feels sort of like a hybrid of action games like Yakuza, but also with a little bit of influence from maybe the Arkham games, where there's like different colors that tell you when to dodge and what buttons you should be pressing. I think that this is a pretty fun combat system. I really enjoy it. I am surprised by the depth of it. Now, with that said, there are some issues that I'll be getting into later with the combat system, but for now, I think my overall impressions are it feels pretty good. It does give this impression of being like a stoic samurai, just waiting for your enemy to attack so that you know how to respond to their movements and stuff like that. You just have to be patient with your enemies and let them make the first move so that you can take them out. There's also some stealth elements. I am actually a really big sucker for stealth. I love stealth games. I love the Metal Gear games. I love all sorts of different stealth games. And this one, the stealth is pretty good. There are some weird things to it. Like, I don't feel like sound is very important in this game. You can run around and make a ton of sound. Whenever you take out an enemy, they always make these terrible gargling noises that I feel like every guard in the encampment should be able to hear but don't hear. And there is one thing that I did notice that started to bother me. Now, this is where I'm going to get into my negative aspects of my impressions. Once again, these are not my final thoughts of the game. So, some of these could change, and some of them I could just grow to get used to, right? Games are kind of a weird art form where the more time you spend with them, the more time you learn about them, the more you enjoy the game. So, there are certain things in this game that maybe later I'll really enjoy, but as of right now, they're kind of weird, and I'm not a huge fan of. All right, let's get into it. So without getting into any specifics, some of the writing in this game is a little weird. Some of it kind of comes off as corny or just really on the nose. An example is our character is a samurai and he doesn't like to show his emotions. So how do they go about getting into this topic? Well, a character flat out asks him, "I've noticed that you don't like to show your emotion."
You don't share much about how you feel, do you?
I suppose you're right.
This is kind of a problem with writing. I think that it's too on the nose and it comes off as really corny, especially when given the beautiful graphics of Ghost of Tsushima and just how realistic everything looks. People do not talk like this and it sticks out like a sore thumb. Along with the realistic graphics, there are some really weird gamey elements that I just think really clash with how good the game looks. One example is when you can climb up and down rock walls, there's these like big rocks that are like almost completely square to indicate that you can climb on them. It just feels weird and it actually takes me out of the game. I know that that's probably really nitpicky and I could get used to it, but it just feels very strange when juxtaposed to this very realistic landscape. along with some of the realism too that is just strange to me, is that whenever you're getting shot at by someone with a bow and arrow, they yell that they're going to shoot. Now, I am not a historian. I don't know anything about the Japanese military at that time or the Mongol military at that time, but I do know that in a game setting, it is weird for someone to indicate to you that they're going to shoot you. And it's also even more weird when you're being stealthy and the archer is the only one that's seen you and he's yelling that he's going to shoot at you, but nobody in the encampment can hear him and they just keep wandering around like nothing's happening, even though one of their scouts is like freaking out and shooting at you. It just feels very strange and actually takes me out of the game personally. Another thing that I want to bring up is the combat system is actually pretty fun, and the more I play it, the more I get used to it. But a big thing that I just think is really weird and just a strange decision is that there isn't any lock-on feature. There's no lock-on feature here, so you just have to point your analog stick towards whichever enemy you're fighting. I am not the biggest fan of this. I almost would prefer like a Dark Souls type lock-on system or something like that so that you know which enemy you are fighting. Alright, so with all that out of the way, am I going to keep playing Ghost of Tsushima? Absolutely. Honestly, the more I play this game, the more I enjoy it. The more things that I unlock for the main character, the more things that I can do, and the more flexible the game becomes, the more I just have fun. I will say that if you pick up this game, the first hour is kind of hand-holdy, and you might be regretting it just for the first hour. But after that first hour, when the open world opens up, it just becomes really fun. You can do whatever you want. It's just this really fun open world, and I love just riding around on my horse, looking at the beautiful landscapes and following the wind. It's really cool. I'm gonna keep playing it. Let me know in the comments if you've been playing it. Thank you so much for watching. This is KillRed40, and I'm out.